Hi YouTube, how's it going? Nice day out. There's clouds in the sky, but it's nice. It's mild for a change. We're going to be in for a warm spell. It's only about -9. It's absolutely gorgeous out. No wind to speak of. So I thought I'd take a little tour of our town and just show you. We haven't had any blizzards this year. We've only had snowfalls and a couple of storms. I thought I'd show you the amount of snow we got. We used to get a lot of snow until they built the new subdivision north of the schools here. See, we have 3 schools in a row. Like I'm the 4th house down the street from this intersection. And you can see a school down there. That school is French, up to grade 8. This is the English school that Amber works in, so she only has a 4-house walk. And then just down the street is the school division offices and the French immersion school, but it also when we first moved here, it was the high school. Then they built a new high school. Now, we used to get a ton of snow in the winter. Get this zoomed to where I had it. So I'll take you to the new subdivision and I'll show you the kind of snow we used to get. Being on the prairies here in middle of Manitoba, or southeastern Manitoba, most days the wind is from the north, which brings the cold, it brings the snow, and being on the north end of town, we used to get hammered with it from the drifting. Now the new subdivision gets to enjoy that. So let's go and see how things are. There's the schoolyard. You can see the back of the school there. That's basically where we are. So we're west of where I live, and just a little bit north, and this was the very edge of town. So this house and these houses were not here. These were built up in the new division. Over the last few years, the town has almost doubled in size since we moved here. When we moved here, it was less than 1,500 people. Nice, quiet little town, still is. So it's hard to see the viewfinder on this thing. It's just bright enough. So you can see where they've piled it up from plowing the roads. And here's the first indication of some heavy-duty drifting. It's this house here. It's a corner lot. You'll be able to see the drifting that they get. You know, they have a 6-foot fence and the drift is right up there. A fair bit of snow. First couple of years we were here, I didn't have a snowblower. We had snow like this and we shoveled it all by hand. My driveway is 15 feet wide and until it gets back of the house, and then it widens up to about 30 feet, or 28. And my driveway is 115 feet long. Needless to say, there's a lot of shoveling to do. So, 2 years in, I bought a snowblower. You can see the children playing sign there, playground sign or whatever. So we're directly north of my house now. But we are facing east. Now I'm turning north. And these are, you can see the snow is a little bit higher in their yards. Plus the stuff that they've had to plow. And then I'm going to go onto a bay here that is on the north edge of town. Get to see the kind of snow we used to get. Now, those of you interested, the average size of these houses is 2,400 feet. 2,200, 2,400 feet. Some of them are a little bit smaller. They're, as for prices, you could get into this neighborhood for $350,000 for an average house, $400,000 for the biggest ones. And now you're starting to see a little more snow here. This is the this section of the road is on the north edge, and we're driving west. So I'll turn it this way and you can see the snow going by. I can get the camera set. There you go. I think that'll help for you. So you can see by the front door there, the drift is as high as the front door and right in front of their house. And these drifts here are higher than my van. When you look between the houses there, the snow goes back as far as you can see it. Do I get puppy points for puppies that aren't mine? They don't even use their front door because they can't. Little fort on the top of this pile. But there's a little bit of snow here. And I'll back up for just a second. I'll show you this, how there's absolutely nothing to stop the snow. Looking straight north between these houses. Those trees are 2 miles north of here. So it's 2 miles of open field. That's the snow blow right in on us. It's good for kids. The kids love, kids like to dig tunnels and stuff, but I don't think the kids do that anymore. I think they're too busy playing in the house. I know as a kid, when we had snow like this in the city, we would dig massive tunnels and forts. Here's a tunnel that's just real tiny. You know, you're already coming out the other end when you're barely into it, and you're already outside the other end. That's a small one. We used to be able to dig them the full width of my mom and dad's backyard, which was 55 feet. And I would dig them pretty well. About probably 40 feet, 45 feet long. What I used to do is I would try and find a box from a fridge or a freezer, like a crate, and stick it in the backyard when we got the first snowfall. And then just leave it. And then as the snow came, it buried it, and then I would dig a tunnel, and when I hit the box, I just cut the end open, and I had a ready-made fort. And it wouldn't collapse on me. Now, there's a little tiny cul-de-sac type bay here. You can see the snow that's on the boulevard. That's 12, 14 feet high. Because the snow doesn't stop until it hits these places. And you can see that the houses disappear behind the snowdrifts. The houses up here get this kind of snow, or maybe a little less, the last few years. Whether we have a lot of snow or not because of the drifting. But we have a lot more snow this year than we have in a couple of years. So, you can see there was a sign back there. You can see the van coming. That's just see the top of it over the snow. Town works is starting to move snow up where he is. There's a stop sign. There's one of the main drainage ditches in the area is right there. So we'll have to see what he's doing here. Let the guy come around the corner. Well, I'll go first. So there's a truck waiting to go too. So. Someone behind me. So this, I'm going to be turning on the other side. This is called Station Road. Used to have a railway station when the railway ran through the town, which never did while we lived here. It was taken up 70 years ago or something. But this is called Station Road, and you'll be able to see a little bit more. This is brand new development in the last 10 or 12 years, and they get a fair amount of snow here too. Just, well, you can see the drifts. They're this one here is as high as the guy's driveway. Or as high as his garage door. 7-foot garage doors. So, little bits of snow. Not too bad. I've seen worse. That guy should likely clean off from his roof. There's a lot of weight on there. Several of them here. You can see that these piles are well up the doors on their houses. So much so that some of these people don't even use their front doors. Because it's just too much shoveling. Oh, this guy always gets a big drift, and he's a corner lot, so he doesn't have a lot of room to put the snow. And can you see his garage door? No? That's because its two-car driveway is down to one car. So, just thought I'd show you some of the snow in town. It's a fair amount. A little more than we've had in the last couple of years, but this is likely closer. We've had some good mild winters, and here's a little cul-de-sac that 1 yard seems to get it all the time. Just 1 yard, so they end up with the big pile. It's funny, this one in front of us gets very little, and there's the sidewalk that goes into the park, then eventually to the school. These two houses get very little because of the way the roads are shaped or something. And plus when they plow. Then you get to this one. This again, it's half of his front yard and about probably 8-9 feet of drifting. So there you have it, guys. Little snow about around my town. We're, I don't know, 15 kilometers southeast of Winnipeg. Quite often the storms will just skirt around Winnipeg because the wind patterns, I guess, with the buildings and everything, and the southeast corner of the province gets hammered more often than not. We're kind of right on the edge of where we get the big storms. The storms are usually a little more southeast of us. The ones that are southeast of us usually are the storms that hit Minnesota. So the Minnesotans out there, very similar terrain even to northern Minnesota and northeast North Dakota, which is 50 miles, 80 kilometers south of us. We're about 50 miles from the Canada-US border. So there you have it, little bit of snow in my town. And we haven't had any blizzards this year, just a couple of storms. Because in Canada, they rate blizzards differently than they do in the States. So there's some adventurous kids built a little fort out of the chunks of snow, stacked it up, good place to play. That's the kind of stuff I used to do when I was a kid. But there we go. Yeah, Minnesota, North Dakota, very similar to terrain, very similar weather patterns. And a lot of our weather patterns come up from Montana and hit the west side of the province as well. Plus we get the ones that come from western Canada up over the Rockies, and they give Calgary their Chinooks, which is really nice warming periods that they get. It's windy but brings warm, but picks up a bunch of moisture, and as it cools coming over the prairies, it dumps it all. And the prairies being flat, just piles it up, and then I think today the flood forecast for North Dakota comes out along the Red River Basin, and Next week the flood forecast for Manitoba will come out. They actually have machines called, several machines that are called an amphibex. And it's basically a floating backhoe. And they drive it on the ice, and the outriggers on the back of a backhoe, instead of those, it's got floats on them. And it floats all around, and it kind of waddles through the ice, on the ice, and they use the backhoe to smash the ice to break it up, to prevent ice jamming farther south, because of the fact that the Red River melts from south to north, so everything from the States runs up this way before we break up, before the ice breaks up here, so we get flooding. So they have these machines, and I can't remember how much they are. They're $300,000 or $400,000, and they have 3 or 4 of them now. But they also have vehicles on tracks, like a bombardier on tracks that has an auger on it. It looks like a massive router, where the bit is I think the bits are like 6 inches in diameter or something. But these routers, they drive up and down the river cutting slots. And they can dig up to 30 inches, I think. And then the slots will fill with snow. And hopefully don't freeze again. And it's like putting expansion joints in concrete. It allows the ice places to break, to fracture when it starts to break up. And they have, because they're on the ice earlier this year because they're anticipating flooding because of the additional snow. They're not usually out there till the beginning of March. So they're out there a couple weeks early. The snow, or the ice, gets cut almost like a grid. It allows it to break up. And the machines have escape hatches on the roof for the operator. The operators wear survival suits. And they actually have a float on them with a cable. So they actually did have one break through the ice 2 years ago, I think it was, and sank to the bottom. The operator, of course, got a little bit wet, but there's always someone else there with him. And so he got wet and got taken to get dry. But what happens is the machine sinks, and then when the ice is clear, they can find the marker buoy that floats to the surface with this cable. And then they just have a small barge that comes up with a crane on it, and they hook up to the cable and lift the thing up, put it on the barge, take it in, drain all the water, drain all the fluids, change the fluids, test fire, and it's ready to go for the next year again. They've only had one go through. I'll see if I can find pictures and add them to the end of this clip. Anyway, we're going to let you go, so take it easy and have a good one.